This is Israeli Technology Founders Speak, a podcast of conversations with successful Israeli high-tech and biotech entrepreneurs. With your host, Avraham Hermon. Tzvi Fox is the founder and CEO of Xtend AI, an Israeli startup that has created robots with autonomous artificial intelligence to work in hospitals, restaurants, hotels, and more. He worked in the early years with Bill Gates at Microsoft and has been an avid technology innovator and serial entrepreneur. Avraham and Tzvi sat down in the offices of JMB Davis Ben-David to discuss how Tzvi got involved in technology, how he came up with the idea for Xtend AI, how he builds his businesses, funds them, markets them, tips for startup founders, and much more. This podcast is a creation of JMB Davis Ben-David, an intellectual property law firm serving clients around the world. You have great innovations. We keep them safe. It's not enough to just have a great startup idea or innovation. If you don't legally protect your innovations, products, and brand, anyone can claim them as their own. We keep your great innovation secure. Learn more by going to jmbdavis.com. That's jmbdavis.com.
I'm here with Tzvi Fox at our JMB Davis Ben-David offices in Modi'in, and we're talking about Xtend AI, the company that you founded and you are the CEO of. Tell me, what problem does Xtend AI solve?
My background is technology, goes all the way back to 1983 when I developed a PC that ultimately we licensed to Microsoft that worked closely with Bill Gates and Kei Nishi when there were only 300 people in Bellevue, Washington. I've been involved in what we'll call the high-tech business, computers, processes. I developed the first multimedia PC. I was the president division of North American Philips. I had worked for a Dutch company that Philips bought, and they needed a computer that they could make in Montreal, where their factory is, and still compete. Without going to it, so the idea of putting a CD-ROM into a PC, that was my invention in 1987.
Wow.
And so that evolved into getting much more involved in anything to do with metadata, really. After we made Aliyah, we started a number of companies which eventually evolved in this called photags, when people used to take pictures and printed pictures. Okay? And you go back to family albums. I'm just giving you this record because I can tell you this. I didn't just wake up one day and say, wow, I'll build a robot. You know, I'm not Isaac Asimov. So if you go through all your family pictures, how do you know? You look at the picture, you turn it over, right? In the back of the picture, somebody wrote a note.
Right.
You know, summer 93, blah, blah, blah. On a digital picture, there's no such thing. There's no back of the picture. So a lot of internet sites started up where you could leave metadata. You can describe the picture on the site, on the page. You have your album. But the problem is it wasn't connected to the picture itself. In other words, if that site got erased, the metadata got erased. Again, l'kitzur, because we get into Xtend.
Yeah, if you can, just keep it in English.
Right. Sorry. It's just because I haven't been in America for 2 weeks.
Okay.
You know, it's like a transition. If I come back right after I come back from the States, the Hebrew will be. But anyway, in summary, we found a way. Inside every JPEG photo is like a kangaroo pouch. It's called MPEG. That's where the data gets served, and it's a metadata header. So we essentially found a way to store your metadata inside the picture and at the same time not make it non-destructive. You know, when you have a postscript, you have many layers on the picture. The way JPEG works to make it small, it basically compresses everything into one layer. So if you put a note on the picture that says Hanukkah 2024, the pixels underneath would get destroyed. So you can't restore it. But we found a way to restore it and ended up selling the company to a company called Smith Micro, but we continued to develop applications, cameras, and one of our main customers was and still is a company called Vivitar in America. And we did all their software for their cameras, for their tablets. And all of a sudden, in 2014, there's this new
innovation,
new technology called IoT, Internet of Things. Google, and essentially Internet of Things meant remote control. It essentially opened up a whole new mega industry called the cloud business. You would have, instead of having things locally, we have all the programs up on the cloud. And then I could, from my application, turn my lights on, or I could create what they call the smart home. And we developed all of the technology for this Vivitar, for their smart home. And they made all sorts of remote control devices. And the hot thing in 2014, 2015 was IP cameras. Nobody buys the light bulb, or the main thing people do was security. That eventually evolved into Ring, which is one of the most popular smart home devices that was bought out, I believe, by it was either Google or Amazon. But the bottom line is, for you to be able to secure your home, you had to install multiple cameras. Company was a company called Nest, which Google did buy. And so for an average floor, you'd have to buy 4 or 5 cameras and put in different locations. Anybody that knows the average consumer in the United States is that there's no rational consumer outside the Midwest that would actually make a hole in their ceiling or in their wall and install it themselves. So I said to myself, instead of having 5 different cameras, why not have a robot? Why not build a self-navigating device with cameras and have it go around the house? And in those days, robots were industrial robots. When you said robot, you're thinking about factories that build cars, it's whatsoever. But I was intimately familiar with hardware from all my years of experience. And I understood what the parts were. And I said, there's no reason why at some point a simple robot that can go around the house, get instructions and, monitor the house, even connect it to smoke detectors, any smart device. And at the end of a major contract with Verizon, where we developed the software for them, where they could have all your multimedia, all your media content, pictures, documents, all your content accessed from a single application, no matter what it was. And because instead of the world being computer-centric, everything now became content-centric. So people had photos on Facebook. Nobody even know where everything was. And we developed software that basically would aggregate everything, manage it, so you had access no matter where you had. But we were at the end of that contract, so we needed the next generation, something new. So that's when I started to look into the feasibility, when the only robots were industrial robots, where they were $30,000, $40,000. But I knew the foundation of it. I'm translating Hebrew to English. I saw that this is something feasible, and then I hired an engineer. Again, it was kind of like a black box. To make a long story short, we figured out a path to be able to end up with affordable robots that could do intelligent things. Now,
so this is when Xtend AI was born?
At that time, when you said AI, it was Alexa, it was Google Assistant. We changed them. Actually, the original name of the company, which still exists, is a company called Hyperlink Technologies. And once we proved that we could actually execute a plan to build intelligent, multifunctional, affordable robots, that's when we spin off, which was in January 2019, and we started a company called Xtend Robotics. Xtend Robotics shifted over. We changed the name to Xtend AI in 2023 for 2 reasons. Number one, all our applications were written in AI. Our actual robot runs from an AI. But more importantly, we built a brain into every single robot. When the robot business all of a sudden started to become a factor, what we call service robots, and you see them in restaurants, the most common use of what we call a service robot, and a service robot is a robot that has essentially autonomous movement. You can give it a location and it can go to a specific location with OpenCV, computer vision with sensors, but you don't need a remote control to move at point A. And so that became the service robot industry. But unfortunately, all the robots that were in the market and continue in the market are what we call single function, non-intelligent devices. Essentially, it's connected to the internet. It's connected onto the cloud. It has a display. So the restaurant robot has a display, and the people in the kitchen put the food on the tray and they touch the screen and say, go to table number 35. So the robot, table number 5, they don't know it's in a restaurant. And table number 5 is a coordinate on a specific map. It doesn't speak. It doesn't understand. All it can really do is essentially, it's a smart vacuum cleaner plus, meaning it can avoid obstacles. It can not bump into people. And that's what it does.
And it could also not spill the coffee on the way.
Well, yeah, hopefully not all the time. If you see any of these robots and you just stick your foot out, and it's not in the direct vision, just the LiDAR, it has some problems, but not the point. But the problem was that these robots had a number of obstacles, and this started to proliferate into the marketplace after we basically defined what was necessary. So the first thing for a robot to become a cost-effective addition, if it's a business, in addition to your logistical infrastructure, it has to be upgradable and you have to be able to teach it stuff. Okay. The idea of that, before there were PCs, then you had individual devices. Now you can do everything from a PC. We saw three obstacles in the industry. One, the need to be connected to the internet. Okay. Now, I don't care where you are outside of a Amazon warehouse, we have triple redundancy, but Wi-Fi falls sometime for 10 seconds, sometimes for 50 seconds. It's not just here in Israel, but if anybody that has Yes or Cellcom or Hot or Bezek, at different times of the day, it just stops. Now, when a robot is connected to or has to be connected to the internet, when Wi-Fi is lost, it just stops in the track. Now, if you're in the middle of a restaurant or in a home that's taking care of an elderly person, or if you're involved in any kind of security in a public area, a robot just stopping because it lost Wi-Fi is really problematic. The third thing we saw was affordability. Robots were being built in a very inefficient way. In my days back in America, cars, one of the big selling price, I think, was a Buick called unibody construction, to stop from vibration. So you built everything on a single mold. And then if you needed another model, then you had to do it again. So you had to have new molds for each one. So while we're still in our R&D phase, my mandate to our team was, before we can go out there and start a new company and raise money and go after a market, we have to solve these three problems. And this is where the IP comes. So our first major IP breakthrough, which continues to be, let's call it landmark change, is we have a series of patents with the latest one called offline operation of intelligent robots. All our robots have a built-in AI brain. And I'll just get to how that came about. In 2018, when a struggling game company, GPU company, was looking for a new market, there was saturation, and they figured out that using a GPU to process AI is 20 times more efficient than a CPU, and that company is called NVIDIA. Okay. And this is around that. It was 2008 when we got their first sample chips here in Israel, when they were just coming out, the very first Jetson and the early days. But that was their breakthrough. And, what else do you do with a GPU? GPU, is real-time games, it renders, and that's exactly what was necessary to search big data. Because at the end of the day, AI is a way to be able to write specific search algorithms to get specific output in a subject, but can search big data quickly. How does a AI program decide to edit a photo, right? You can have these photos editing a photo. Well, they go ahead and find all the different programs and all the different ways photos were edited, found the most efficient way, and you get the result in megaseconds instead of would have been hours. The CPU can't do that. It can, but it would have to spend a lot of money. So when we solved those three problems, that's when we came out and we said, okay, we're going to go out. We're going to focus on developing technology that will enable the robotics industry to develop intelligent devices that can be upgraded, that was cloud agnostic. And we built a modular system. Lego. My inspiration was simply Lego. Lego, you have a finite number of Lego parts, but Lego has thousands and thousands of consumer products, but they all use at least 80% of a Lego kit has the same parts as all the other kits. That's why instead of doing unibody, let's develop this Lego kind of a system with separate torso, separate base, separate head, so you can quickly interchange the parts and reuse the parts. And because of the old system, every single time a robot company wanted to develop a brand new model, it would take somewhere between $10 and $20 million and 2 to 3 years. And I said, ultimately, that's not a sustainable model unless, again, you're Amazon or you're a big company. I said, there has to be a way to be able to reduce the cost and time. And so in January 2019, we spun off what's now called Xtend AI. And we were initially looking to license our technology. Our goal was that here we have this ability, we'll go to robot companies and show them that we can reduce the cost of developing a robot, cost and time of developing a robot from an average of $12 million in 2 years to under $1 million in 8 months. And that's what we did. With all our maturity matured and everything, we do that today. But when we went to all these companies in Japan, in Korea, in China, they said, where were you 3 years ago? We already spent the $10 million. True stories. And our business model was we license it out for a reasonable amount, but we write the custom software. We're a software house at the end of the day. So we couldn't find any customers. And at the end of I had to make a decision at the end of 2018, after I've explored the opportunity to work as a vendor to these different robotics companies. I had to make the decision, retire, time for pensia. But I just saw the idea and the opportunity because today, everybody's a Monday morning quarterback, but today everybody will tell, especially in healthcare, without intelligent robots coming onto the scene to assist the doctor or the nurse or to deliver medications, or even in the back office of identifying devices, there just isn't the workforce available worldwide, and also significant reduction in error. So today, nobody's going to tell you robotics is not the future. Now, as a matter of fact, people are leapfrogging to humanoid robots. It's even the next generation. So now it's clear. But in end of 2018, it wasn't so clear. So anyway, I decided we have to go on our own. We initially funded the company, bootstrapped it with friends and family, myself, and then we started to look for VCs, because this is a serious business. So in my history in the software business, we were able to raise enough money privately and show a profit within a couple of years. But this is hardware. This is a whole different world. So we started to look for VCs, both in Israel and in the United States. And the very first question was, what's a robot? Because when you said 98% of the industry, industrial robots are these big arms. There's no body, there's no mobility. They're all in one place. All these robots are fixed in one place. Even now, you have a new industry called cobots, which is small versions of the big robots that stand in one place. So the first thing is, what's a robot? Okay. When I finally managed to show them what a robot is and explain the technology on the most cursory basis, the next question is, who needs it? And when I presented who's going to need it, the projections in the marketplace, the 20 or so industries that can all take advantage of it. And what we showed them was that in my over 50 years of business experience, the two principles when you start a business, a startup, the two things you have to always focus on. Number one is risk aversion. This is the first business I ever started where I didn't have an order first or a customer give me some money up front. Okay. And the other one is scalability. You never want to reinvent the wheel. Okay. If you have to write one-off programs again and again, it becomes totally inefficient. So those were my two bases for Xtend AI.
So where are you now in terms of how much you advanced since then?
Long story short, January 2019, when we finally got a couple of potentially interested VCs, and we were a real startup, low valuation. As a matter of fact, I went out of my way to make our valuation really reasonable because it doesn't make a difference how you start. It makes a difference of where you end. If you overvalue your company, once you have to go down in valuation, you're already in a completely different league. So we were going out there, and finally we found a couple of interested investment groups. And I said, listen, we've achieved the two most important critical issues from my perspective is risk aversion, meaning that our technology can work with any kind of robot. We can customize any kind of robot for any industry. And the second thing is scalability.
Because of your modular approach.
Our current robots, all robots, no matter what the design is, and all our robots are designed for custom. And we're ready to go to market now, and now we can raise some serious money. Well, serious for us and not for the industry. But anyway, I said, we're agnostic. It's 2019. And now we can move anywhere. We're going to start focusing on healthcare because that's where the biggest barrier to entry. No Chinese company can just deliver a robot into it. It has to do very specific things. And so these two people, they said, listen, Tzvi, we really are excited. We see what you're talking about, the robots, but you're not focused. Pick one robot. Tell us you want to make a robot for a restaurant. We'll give you $4 or $5 million for that. Tell us you want to go with a robot in hospitality, a better mousetrap, so to speak. We'll give you money in that. But this idea of agnostic, look, it doesn't register by us. I said, you guys don't get it. Okay. Now, if I was, and this is not a derogatory statement, but I was the typical Israeli entrepreneur, I take the money, sure, give me the money. And then I do whatever I want with the money. But I said, you don't get it. Let's say I agree to what you say. We're dealing with an industry that has no track record. We're talking about less than 0.5% penetration. Let's say you're wrong. And there's a number of companies that exactly happened to. They raised $30-40 million. And it turned out that that market wasn't ready. He said to raise another $30 million. They said, we're going to be back where we start from. Let's say we go first with healthcare. And all of a sudden, there's a demand for, in the security business or in the hospitality business, 5 months later, I have a robot for that marketplace, leveraging everything we had. Anyway, we were not successful in raising outside money. And from then until basically 3-4 months ago, now we're going towards Series B. And we're going to now we need to go to market. So we, have to build robots and we're getting some good feedback now. But basically it was clear we had to raise money. We continue to do privately. Now, what that meant, the average service robot company to get to a prototype stage, which is where we were at about 3 months ago, with all our technology matured and everything, the average startups spent between $70 and $80 million to get to that point. The total amount of money we spend to date is under $15 million. Mm-hmm. The valuations of our competitors are insane. Now, as a matter of fact, with AI, as soon as you use the word AI, AI robotics, startups are raising $300-400 million at $2.5 billion, $2 billion valuation. Mm-hmm. That doesn't affect us. Our focus is to get our technology and products into the marketplace, to get robots in hospitals, to get robots into the security marketplace, which we can do. That's going to happen. So we hope to be able to close this round in the next 60 to 90 days. But in the meantime, all our technology is matured. So because all the money is private, because all these rounds are friends and family, equity, long-term loans, CLA, I needed an insurance policy to make sure that if, God forbid, for any reason, look, there's a lot of things that you can't be sure of in this world. But no matter how great a technology you have, there's no guarantee you're going to raise the money. It's about connections, knowing the right people. And most importantly, VC is a double-edged sword.
Sure.
And everybody's dealt with them. But the good news is that if you get a VC in the early seed round and you're progressing, they'll find the money for you. The management doesn't have to go out there and schnorr for money, which we had to. But I needed it, let's say, with all our great technology, which when you see it working, is just truly anybody that sees it, they just literally fall off their chair because we built a software architecture of brain. We have all the basic capabilities, face biometrics, face recognition, object recognition, automated movement mapping, text-to-speech. All of this is done without the need to connect to the internet at all. And again, the first one to build NVIDIA chips is a brain for local operations. But I need an insurance policy. So from the time we started with the little budget we had, I wanted to focus on IP, on patents. What we had, we're not talking about design patents. We're talking about a portfolio of patents that are quantitative but not qualitative.
So you're generating value from the very get-go.
Right. We generated value because, thank God, we were able to manage with a budget that, because of the very dedicated, smart team. Some of the people on my team, we've worked together for over 20 years. And everybody believes in what we're doing. But because we are able to do things efficiently, if, God forbid, things then that work out, to be able to recover everybody's investment with a solid IP portfolio, because worst comes to worst. IP is a commodity. Patents are commodities. And we wanted to make sure that every single technology we had a patent. And we also wanted to make sure that every single patent had a technology. So it wasn't just a patent.
It wasn't just theoretical, but there are real applications to your IP.
It was conceptual, but I have experience in this. I have a number of patents under my belt over the last bunch of years. And so I understood essentially all our patents are real inventions.
So let's talk a little bit about that process, about IP process. How do you get to the point where you have a large portfolio? Maybe also talk about how big your portfolio is.
Okay, so first of all, as of today, we have 50 worldwide patents. 50. There's 13 families, but the 13 families, I'll go through the highlights of the three biggest ones. All our patents are extremely broad. Moving to this firm has even helped us even get more long-term value in that. But our patents for offline operation of intelligent robots wasn't about a specific part. So now NVIDIA has a new generation of chips called Thor, Thor, which is their humanoid robots, and they recognize that certain functionality, cognitive functionality, is best done offline. Mm-hmm. The moment they deliver those chips, more than happy to license anybody on that.
You're saying you're already drafting patent applications with the competition in mind, seeing what other people are doing and knowing that this patent is important because it can potentially be licensed to big players out there.
Anybody who has experience in IP where they're not an IP, just developing patents just to sue people. But anybody that's been involved, especially in North America with Obama changing rules and everything about what can be protected, the most important motivation for having a patent is defensive. You're developing a new technology. You have something that you need to protect. And at the very least, you need to be able to have a portfolio of patents so that if IBM or some big company comes to you, or Apple or any of these guys, you have something to show for it, as opposed to, and you know that once you have a portfolio of patents, the people who own similar overlapping, which doesn't exist, by the way. It's not a dilemma, but it's ironic. One of the ironies is we have this amazingly strong portfolio, but our technology is so much ahead of the marketplace that nobody's infringing. In other words, they don't have any products. So the value of as a patent as a standalone asset that you can project revenue from by licensing or, God forbid, having to. And if people want to license, because look, at the end of the day, we can't build every robot in the world. You want to have bigger companies. You want to have technology that will, but the bottom line is you want to be able to leverage what you have. And I'll tell you what I think is our most important robot coming in 2025. But the first objective is to have a portfolio that, first of all, accurately covers your invention and making sure defensive. But ultimately, it becomes a barrier to entry. For a company to have the highest degree of chances for success, there has to be the ability to show that the company turns into being cash flow positive and profitable. In the service robot marketplace today, there isn't a single company that's shown a profit. They all have spent hundreds of millions of dollars today. And you can do that. There was a company, one of our competitors called Bear Robotics. At our stage, they spent $127 million to get to the prototype versus our 14.
Wow.
And to go to market, they raised $85 million at a $400 million valuation versus us raising $20 million at a $100 million valuation. But all of these companies have no chance. So they were sold to LG. Okay. And LG already, to them, their robotics division is absorbed within their, P&L. The same thing, you live long enough, you can't be shocked by anything. But the one thing that shocked me over the last 3 years is Alexa, Amazon's Alexa. I don't know if you're familiar with the technology. Okay, in 2023, the Alexa division lost $10 billion.
Wow. And this is such a well-known...
No, it's not about well-known. I'm just saying you can be well-known as much as you want. But if you don't have a business model, why? Because all our robots... with our intelligence, we don't try to have one robot work in a hospital. We don't try to build a huge library of functionality into a robot. What we do, so the robot that's in a doctor's office has the lexicon and all the descriptions and access to all of the databases for medicine. When we move it into a restaurant, we just switch the programs around. Right? You don't have to have it. But what Alexa does is you can ask it any question about anything. That takes hundreds of millions of dollars of cloud computing. Okay. And from their perspective, this was a sales tool for them to sell their other products. So by saying Alexa compatible, I'm just saying $10 billion. Now they're starting to slowly shut it down. I mean, not close. Alexa's going to be gone, but they're not investing it. But from inception, they spent close to $20 billion. Now, in the real world, that's something that only the very big companies can do. Not that they should. They learned their lesson. All the Googles and all these guys cut down their workforce by about half or 2/3, as with Corona's excuse, because they saw if you already have, why not run efficiently? And all that's moving in that direction. But anyway, from our perspective, we have all our technology complete, mature. But the robot I was telling you was what I believe is going to be most effective example of how you leverage a product use to a flexible technology. So every single function we created for a robot was based on input from a customer. We saw that we had the Lego system coming. We saw that we could build a brain without being connected to the internet. The next thing is, what do you put your money in terms of the functions and the feature? So we went to a number of different nursing homes, hospitals, doctor's office, and asked them one simple question. What does the robot have to do that you'll pay me for?
Mm-hmm. Right. So this is essentially a product that's designed by the end consumer.
It's customized. Every row, we do not have an off-the-shelf anything. We custom everything, the software, even the hardware interchangeable parts. We can change the torso, add a drawer for very affordable instance. So one of the large nursing home chains, 3 years ago, when we went to and asked them, they said, we've got this problem to spend with distributing medication in our nursing homes. About 70% of the medications are all distributed at the same time in the morning, with the meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But there's 30% of the medications where people need it at different times, 5 times a day, 6 times a day. And we just don't have the manpower. So we have to take a nurse, who has to visit 40 patients in order for the insurance company to compensate them, because that's what their motivation is. They generate money by the number of patients that they serve. So one problem is it's being very expensive for us to get it done. He says the other problem we have is in a typical nursing home, 5 to 10% of the medications the wrong medications are handed out. And in the United States, after doing a long research project, it can get up to much to 20%, but 10 to 15% of the medications, whether it's because somebody at the factory put the wrong label on the snap out or the nurse got busy doing something else. But that is a chronic problem. That generates in America $3.5 billion worth of legal expenses for settlements and all that. And the third problem, they said, is, unfortunately, security. The way medication's distributed, it's on a cart. You have a computer. The medication's in a drawer, in all these carts. In America, unfortunately, if the nurse turns around, some drug addict or somebody comes in, and they have about 8 or 10% of the medicines get stolen and all that. So they said, can you solve this problem for us? And so give me a couple of months. Bottom line is, because of our face recognition, because of all the technology we have, we were able to come up with a solution where the medication dosages and everything, basically the prescription is downloaded directly into the computer, into the robot from the database. We developed a kind of a cartridge that can hold up to 65 different medications. And a typical department, again, if the robot is servicing orthopedics, it's not servicing cardio. So the average department needs between 25 and 30 unique medications in each department. So the way we developed this cartridge system, and this cartridge system holds 65, but if they need more, we can just make the robot taller. In other words, it's totally configurable based on that. Before the pill is dispensed, there's a sensor at the bottom to check, because every pill is unique. Even generic, there's no 2 pills are exactly the color change, size change, marking. We checked it, of course, with ingestion. So there's no way for the wrong medication. The medication is given secure by biometrics. We can do retina, whatever he wants. And because the robot itself is 50 pounds and there's no way to break into it. And let me just finish this, because this is key to our whole strategy, and we'll show you how we leverage our IP. So when I sat down with our team, we have 2 people in our company that are experts in IP, and because they're sitting next to the programmers. So when I told them the idea, they came, I said, listen, why should we restrict our patent to dispersing medicine? Essentially, we have an intelligent robot can tell the difference between one kind of medicine and a different kind of medicine, one person and a different person. So we wrote the patent to cover intelligent distribution of anything. So we have a design for a mobile vending machine.
Wow.
We're now working on a version where in a surgical room, the robot can give the right tools. And it's all the same patent. So the robot, the patent isn't just about medication distribution, it's intelligent distribution of anything.
Sounds amazing. So where do you see Xtend AI, let's say in a year from now and then 5 years from now?
Practically speaking, and this is not a secret, we as an independent company can never fully leverage what we have. So I'll give you an example. There's at least 200,000 hospitals in the world that need, every hospital we've ever shown the idea of the medication disbursement, I need one, I want one. There was without exception. And that's part of the use of proceeds. We should have the model done, first prototype done in Q3 of 2023. But let's say we raise another 100 million, so we can make 10,000. We want to partner. We're looking for an M&A acquirer of the company who has huge resources, already have big factories in place, and can leverage what we have. And that's how we get maximum value to our shareholders. Our team is indispensable. They developed the technology. This is not technology you just port over. Everybody in the world is coming to Israel to look. Well, we're an American corporation, but all our R&D is done here in Israel. We have a small office in America, but 95%, we have an office in Rehovot and in Yerushalayim, software in Yerushalayim. So we're looking to be acquired by a company that fully leverage what we have and can distribute it worldwide. That's the plan.
Okay. Let's talk to founders who are at the beginning of their journey. You have a lot of experience in your field and also the startup. What recommendations do you have for founders who are in this situation where they're just starting their startup?
First of all, as I said, you have to be able to build a business plan over a finite period of time that shows the company turning in a profit and being cash flow positive. Now, there's a lot of businesses in Israel. I mean, the startup market in Israel has evolved positively from the time we got here. When I started to look at starting an operation in Israel, which we're talking about 1997, 1988, most of the Israeli companies were selling out right away. They built the technology, they found the buyer. I mean, this is a little bit later, but even Waze, you had a bunch of companies, great engineers, Technion, Army, whatever. I mean, the Waze technology came from, the Calpio project, but whatever. Nobody was really looking into turning their product or the technology into a profitable, scalable business.
Mm-hmm.
That has changed. Good example is Wix.
Right.
Wix had a technology, but they learned how to leverage that, sell it and leverage that, and a lot of other companies. But when we started, you didn't have any management with marketing skills and product distribution skills.
Mm.
But today, more and more companies stay independent long enough to get maximum value. And so the first thing is you have to be able to show at some point I can make a profit. Okay. Number two, especially in the beginning, your valuations have to make sense. Okay. You have to, on the one hand, you have a typical angel that'll come in. Okay, I'll give you $500,000. Give me 25% in the company. That might be workable if that angel is then responsible to get you the rest of the funding. Wherever possible, you want to be able to put yourself into a position where you can focus on managing your business and have a true capital partner who's interested in the long run. And that all starts off with a fair valuation.
Mm-hmm.
If you give away too much of the company, then by the second round, you have a minority interest. On the other hand, if you try to be too expensive and you don't reach the business goals as you anticipate, which is about 75% of the time, everything you're late takes 4 months. So you want to try to find the right. It's not about getting VC. It's about making sure that the people who's investing in your company understand your business and believe what you're doing. And as part of that, you have to be extremely aware of your competition. One of the biggest problems I've seen in Israel, and not just Israel, even America, is that people think, oh, nobody else has this. From the time we started Xtend AI, I have a full-time researcher who every month issues a competitive analysis, 2 reports and a competitive analysis. And we can't, again, in our field of robotics, it's not supposed to be this all-encompassing. It started like a 12-page report. Now it's up to 250 pages every month. And we also did a competitive evaluation. What is our competition raising money at? Not so much as to say, oh, we have to raise our valuation. But again, as long as you can prove value and progress and that you're achieving your goals as a reasonable price, being in a position to not have to exit until the right deal comes along increases significantly. Know your competition, know the market. There's one thing I can tell you without a doubt. Anybody that wakes up in the morning or sitting at the table or in the shower and said, wow, I have this great idea, I can guarantee you there's at least 100 other people at the same time doing the same thing. It's a matter of execution.
Yeah. As a patent attorney, I say the same thing. You got this idea. Chances are there are like billions of smart people in the world. Well, billions of people in the world. A lot of them are smart. Even if 1% of them are smart and have ideas, chances are other people came up with your idea. You have to really make sure that you know who's out there.
Also that you have to be willing to execute. Also, there's nothing wrong with competition. The period of time, I'll end with the anecdotal part here. But there was a time when Microsoft, was really in everything they can have. I worked with Bill Gates. He was supposed to come to my second son bar mitzvah, and his flight was canceled last minute. Bill Gates basically didn't believe in competition. So when there was a new industry that came out, like there was this handwriting recognition DOS that other companies came out, he answered, we are in it also. and they scared away. So when you used to go to try to raise money for any kind of software application that Microsoft would have had, they said, how are you going to compete against Microsoft? So they build a kind of dominance. You can't be afraid of competition. As a matter of fact, in a new industry like robotics, where even now, 6 years later, you have less than a 4% penetration, the more innovation that comes into the marketplace is good for everybody.
Right.
So you have to be able to not only believe in what you're doing, but back it up with information, research, data, something that makes sense, at least to you. Again, like when we started, nobody knew what a robot is. And you have to be willing to persevere and struggle. And God willing, if it's a good idea, if it helps, at the end of the day, there's a real customer long term, the odds of success are significant.
Mm-hmm. Great. So thank you very much. These are great tips. Thanks for coming out to our office.
My pleasure.
Tzvi, and hopefully we'll be able to hear from you again in the future and hear a lot about your success.
You know where to find us.
That was Tzvi Fox, the founder and CEO of Xtend AI. We hope you enjoyed this episode. There are many more to come. Do you have a great innovation or startup idea? We'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us by going to our website, jmbdavis.com. And if you go to jmbdavis.com/startup, you'll see we have a special site specifically made for startups to help startups protect their innovations. Please be in touch with us and find out how we can help you. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode.